All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll start out with a pledge of allegiance. Has everyone read the minutes?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the approval of the board minutes from our last meeting in July?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, the next, do we have any speakers?
No, ma'am, we have nobody signed up right now.
Okay, no speakers. All right.
All right, so I'll go over the opioid budget with
Sure.
you guys real quick. So to date, our last payment came in January 28th, 2025. So we should be getting another one somewhere around January, February of 2026. But to date, we have received $5,369,663.88. Of that, we have obligated $3,647,362.36, leaving our current balance to be able to award for this fiscal year just over 1.7 million is what we have available to be able to award to new applications. We did also get a notification that there is a McKenzie settlement that will be coming our way. We are expecting to receive the payment at the end of September. The total amount we'll be getting for that is about $129,000. And once we receive that, it'll come back before you guys to accept those funds, and then it will go to the BCC to accept those funds again.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Yes, is the McKinsey settlement different from the other opioid money?
It's still an opioid abatement funding, it's just a different provider, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
yep. Do we want to go ahead and let them present their reports,
Yes, that'll be fine.
just to keep going? Okay.
Do we have anybody from
Logging
it?
in? Okay. I think we can do it right here without logging in.
That'll probably be faster.
I had a video, but we're just not even going to try to go there. This is so much easier than that computer. He's going to switch it, so I'll be up on your screens. So just so you know, I'm Christy Hankins. I'm with the County Attorney's Office. It's good to see you. Good to see all of you. So what happens, what I've been doing recently is going over some videos, and I had one that I wanted to play for you because I wanted you to understand some of the concepts of this are much more important than we realize. Unfortunately, because of having to transition from my computer onto this system, I didn't get it downloaded onto this video, nor can I slide out into YouTube land and pull it up. So we'll just go through. I know you remember our discussions previously about the pork chop gang. That was the legislature in North Florida that was running the entire state of Florida. And it wasn't until there had been redistricting that we were able to reduce the power of this of the North Florida legislature to allow allow all parties of the state to be represented in our legislature. Then, of course, we've talked about John Pennekamp, and I've talked to you about the Everglades on a bet, where he was playing a poker game, and he needed money to reserve the Everglades. He was playing a poker game with a bunch of legislatures, and the position was, how much money do you need? Quit taking it out of our hands, and we'll give it to you through the legislature. So that's how a large portion of that, that's where a large portion of the money that was raised to protect the Everglades came from, was John Pennekamp playing a good game of poker. And then, of course, you know, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, I like to put her up. She wrote the book Rivers of Grass, and I love to put her up because I think we forget how important she was. She was also an advocate for women's right to vote and women's rights in general. So I always like to stick her in here. She's one of the 25 most influential people in the state of Florida. Emory Red Cross, he was the one that pushed our public records and our Sunshine Law as we know it today. He started in 1957 trying to get this to get through when he was working with a fraternity, a journalism fraternity at the University of Florida, working with them to try to get a better public records law and rules so that this would become government in the Sunshine State. It wasn't until 1967, 1968, 1967 is when the Sunshine Law was passed. And then you can see there we have the 1909 Original Public Records Law. The Original Public Records Law has been in place with lots of changes since then. The book has gotten thicker and thicker, and it's not because they're putting it on higher quality paper. It's because they keep carving out exceptions. As times change, the public records law has to change as well. We live in a time where people's private information or personal information needs to be protected better, whereas it used to be wide open. The government and the Sunshine Law, there had been a previous statute involving meetings of the public, of public entities, but it wasn't until the courts got involved, even after the passage in 1967, where the determination was made that even when two people are meeting, they cannot talk about what's happening, about things that are coming before them. And this law is guiding, and that's why I wanted to show you a video that was recently during COVID. There was a meeting that was held in the state of Florida. It was by a local board, and they took that opportunity to call a meeting that had not been published. The gentleman that was responsible for that, I think he ended up with 2 counts, and I believe it was 90 days in the county jail. So 3 people on the board met, but they didn't publish it to the public, so the public didn't have notice. And so when we ask, has this been noticed, it's a very important step, and it can land you in the county jail if you fail to follow. Of course, they took it to the extreme. They used that opportunity to fire everybody under their jurisdiction that they didn't like. So a little extreme. Florida, and it's a great video, and I'll have it for next time. The Florida Constitution, it was so important to the people of the state of Florida that we put this in our Constitution. And that's what continues to protect it from being taken away, and for us going back to the dark ages of not having government in the sunshine. While there is legislation that takes more and more things and puts them into an area where you can't access it, that is usually driven by events that different organizations within the state need to be protected, different people within the state needs to be protected. So that includes our prosecutors, our law enforcement officers, our public defenders, our code enforcement officers, and state county attorneys, people that tend to be the victims of violence and attacks, plus the individual's private information to protect it from being accessed for ill-gotten gains. So these are the 3 requirements. If you hit these 3 requirements as far as having the meeting, you should be pretty good at not getting on the wrong side of the county jail bars. So this is, meetings have to be open to the public, there has to be notice, and minutes must be taken and promptly recorded. As that says below, it doesn't apply to the legislature or to judiciary. The legislature makes the rules and the judiciary is not under the same, is under a different branch of government. All meetings of any board or commission of any state, so that includes you. You're a committee that's under the board. You have to provide reasonable notice. This is the one where the other people got hung up. Even though they had a public meeting, they didn't give proper notice, and that's how the head of the meeting ended up in the jail. He's appealing, even though, I think he did appeal, but it doesn't matter, he had finished his sentence by the time that was done. And then the minutes of the meeting. So it doesn't mean that it has to be transcribed, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to say enough so that people know what was discussed and what votes occurred. So here's the reasonable opportunity amendment to the Florida statute, which means if you have a meeting and you don't allow people to speak at it, then how is the public being allowed to redress their grievances with the board? And since boards can't talk to each other outside of the presence of being in this situation, then if you don't have the public talking to the board all at once, then the board doesn't get the opportunity to have those discussions. While it's challenging to not be able to have off camera or off mic discussions, is still very important to keep that in mind, because if you're talking about things where people can't see you, then things like what was going on at that poker game can happen again. There was another instance that happened that was important in the history of Florida. Was when they were putting in I-75, there was a board that had been selected to determine which properties would be purchased for the purposes of putting in the I-75. And that board itself, the members of that board were actually talking to their friends and telling them which pieces of property to buy. So that was also something, that's also not allowed. You can't give someone information regarding which properties to buy so that you can get a leg up on the government. So here's some of the things that are the exceptions to the opportunity to be heard. It doesn't have to be at the same setting, so you could have a meeting in the morning and the hearing in the afternoon, or a hearing a day later. It does have to be before the decision or the vote occurs. It has to be in a reasonable proximity, as mentioned earlier. And it also doesn't prohibit orderly conduct and proper decorum. If you've ever watched county commission meetings, there have been times when people had to be removed, and there are ample videos of this. There's one that they show from a city council meeting. When we go to our trainings, there's one they show from a city council meeting, not Pensacola, where things got really heated, and it ended up with the chair of the council coming down off the board and getting into a fist fight with somebody who was speaking. So decorum on both sides of the bench is a good idea, and it should never rise to violence. There were a couple of arrests made in that case as well. So when, I'm sorry, these are the absolute exceptions that are statutory, and that means that, so of course, hurricanes, we always talk about that, evidently snowstorms too, emergency affecting public health, ministerial acts, so when the board's down here doing a presentation, a proclamation presentation, or something that they really just have to vote on, they don't have the ability to exercise any type of jurisdiction. So that's basically what ministerial means. If you can't exercise jurisdiction, then there's nothing, it's kind of pointless for anybody to voice their opinion. The board always has the option. You always have the option to listen to people. It's just that it's not necessary in a ministerial act. Then meetings that are exempt. These are fire safety meetings, blueprints, so this also includes things that are exempt from public record. We work together on public records often, and sometimes things get beyond us that shouldn't have gotten beyond us. But if someone's looking for information on these meetings, the minutes of those meetings are not public record, those discussions, and it's not open to the public for those items. And then, of course, quasi-judicial meetings. So that's things that sometimes the board sits in a the Board of County Commissioners sits in a quasi-judicial setting. Often it's licensing boards like the Board of, for instance, the Board of, the Contractor Competency Board sits in that position where they're regularly ruling on the legitimacy or whether or not actions should be taken against somebody's license. In that situation, you want fact witnesses or expert witnesses, but beyond that, you can, anything the public has to say can't be weighed into their decision-making. So it has to, you have to be careful with quasi-judicials, because there are people that show up and want to speak at quasi-judicial that don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak. And these are some Attorney General opinions on violations where written position papers were put out. And as long as there's no other discussion by someone else of social media, don't jump in and have an opinion on what someone has to say. You just let it be and keep your position and your opinion to yourself. Because getting involved in that, it used to happen more with the press, where the press would go to one county commissioner and then want to talk to another county commissioner or a city councilman or someone on a board that's overseeing a decision such as yours, and then want to find out, well, what's your opinion of their opinion? So you have to avoid those. You have to be careful in this day and age about not getting in social media. I recommend staying off of it altogether. It's just depressing. And then, of course, we talked about some penalties, and that includes being put in jail as a second-degree misdemeanor. These are some good references for if you want to look into First Amendment rights. It was the UF College. It's the UF College of Journalism and Communications. I list them. They are the source for the Breckner Center, and that's also the source of the fraternal organization, the journalism fraternity that was involved in the 1950s. And here are those books. They change every year. I didn't bring the latest copy, but the latest copy is about the size of that 2004 book. And I can tell you, in 2004, that was really good paper. Now you can see through it when you hold it up to a light. So they're big books. They don't look that big, but there's a lot of law involved in them. If you ever want to look and find out how to learn information about them, you can go on the Attorney General's website. You can go on the Attorney General's website and put in that you want to look at a public record manual on the Attorney General's website. And then this is, of course, this is for the federal, the FOIA. If you want to do a federal request, it's under FOIA, FOIA.gov. Any questions? She asked hesitantly. Good, because sometimes you have people and it sounds like they're trying to skirt it and you're like, it's just not worth it. Just stick to the rules and you'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hankins. Next, we'll move to the reporting. The first I have is the Escambia County EMS Corps. Okay. Community Health.
And I will get out of your way. I'm just trying to get this. About got it. All right, there we go.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Board. I appreciated that presentation on Sunshine. It's always good to brush up on that. So our report from Community Health, the biggest update we have is that we have fully onboarded and integrated Tracy Peterson as a peer support specialist. So she's got her license through the state. She's also a certified insurance navigator through the state. So that's a separate state license. So that's been a really good integration as far as sustainment. And I know that that's a big mission of the board. So the workflow is Tracy not only provides that peer support for each patient coming through the core program, but also able to assist them in finding insurance coverage if available, and really working with them as a fiduciary, so not trying to sell them a particular plan. We are still working with HR. I think we're going to have some updates for you soon with the MD. I've got some emails in with Liz as well. But all of our sites are up and running, and I wanted to really draw your attention to the last page. So this is, and y'all get it early because this actually just got accepted Thursday of last week that went up to the state. So this is the cumulative data for the core network. And I want to be clear, the language that we use around that is community health is a part of the core network, meaning that our core program, it's not, we include everybody across all of our service lines. And that was an updated language that really caused us to change our logic and broaden it. And with those changes, we're collecting data on each individual that's a patient of community health that has some sort of diagnoses of substance use. And so it's a total of several hundred diagnostic codes, so it's a pretty big pool, but it covers everything. And so we currently have 3,021 patients that were under our care, and their fiscal year runs from July 2024 all the way through to the end of June of 2025. So this is cumulative over that year. And so these are also patients, a lot of them that may be pre-contemplative. So they come into us for care, we've identified them, we are providing care and education and support for their substance use disorder, but they have not yet made the decision to enter into formalized, we'll call it abstinence-based or abstinence-encouraged care would be the better term. Another important number there is 376. So those are the number of individuals with diagnosed opiate use disorder in our care. If you flip back over to page 2, I've kind of got a breakout because of those 379, 123 are identified with opiate use disorder, but again have not entered into any sort of MAT care. So those are patients that we've both identified, we're targeting, we're trying to get them in. But again, it's the patient's decision. So we have 165 individuals that are currently taking MAT medication. We have 179 over this reporting period that came in from EMS. So when you see the 24/7 access point, that's specifically the number of patients that EMS saw that then got transferred into our care. And then you can see the sustainment. And we do believe our sustainment numbers are pretty good. There's roughly about 75 people floating out there that came in and dropped off. And so if you flip back to the previous page, I've kind of given a primer of the data points. So we're reflecting a 92% retention rate, a little over 92%. And our definition of retention follows the state definition, and that is a patient who has entered care into MAT program at some point and continues to receive care across any service line. So they may have come in for MAT at some point, they may still be on MAT services, they may not, but they're still coming to us for care, and so that's considered a retention. It's ones that just fall off our radar, that goes into that 8%. The 2,765, so that's the number of patients within Community Health's patient base that have been identified with substance use disorder, but have not entered into formalized care through the specific core program with our providers at those service sites. So again, that's a reflection. We know we've got an issue, but again, just continuing to support these patients, continuing to provide that genuine care and concern, and we know about them. You know, that's the biggest thing, is that the providers, the primary care providers, when they're speaking with these patients, they're encouraging, they're trying to kind of nudge them along. But the research supports as well is that us telling them to go do something really doesn't work. But if we provide that supportive environment, when they're ready to make that decision, as our numbers demonstrate, it sticks. So do you have any questions?
No questions. The 92%, though, that is a
Yeah,
very good.
I will be completely honest, that number shocked me. And I'm sure Dr. Irvin, and I was going through the source data and pulling and looking at specific, I was absolutely shocked. Now, I will say, let me couch this. Retention's defined as somebody who may have been in MAT services, but still comes to us. So say, for instance, and I'm just going to use Lakeview, if somebody came to stop at some point and then was continuing to go to Lakeview and utilizing other services, that's counted as a retention. Now, in my mind, I go, well, that person may or may not still be struggling, but per the guidance from the state, it's counted as a retention because they're still coming back. And I believe, any other professional would agree that, that's a good thing. We still want them to come back because we may be able to slide them back in at some point.
I have one quick question. When you say formalize, they're coming to you, but what do you consider the formalized side?
So, formalized meaning that they're coming to see Keisha Tran, Ryan Bianco, Sean Ryan. They're coming into those monthly, sometimes weekly appointments for specific MAT services. So within our structured data, we have, of course, we have that 3,000 number of patients with substance use, but we have a smaller subset of 256 that are flagged within their structured data as being actively participating in all of the additional services of our core program. And so while we're treating the patient, they're not accessing, or they have chosen not to access those more intensive services. And so when you look at recovery and kind of a continuum, they have this phase called pre-contemplative, where it's like they know that there's an issue there, but they're not ready to make the decision to make that change. And what we're trying to do is move them from pre-contemplative to contemplative. And so they know there's an issue, they want to make changes. And when they get to that point, that's when we guide them in to formalized treatment and care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ministry Village.
Walter's making us all look bad this morning. At least he has a Florida State shirt on. That's great. Good morning. Just an update for Ministry Village. We have currently have cleared all of our land, and we have had that surveyed. Our topo and geo has been done. We have recently changed general contractors, and so we expect a faster moving pace now. We're waiting on two things. We're waiting on the drawing from the architect, and we're waiting on a development order. So any of you guys that's with the county, if y'all can help push that through a little faster, that'd be amazing. That's where we are to date, and we have had this year alone over 300 ladies apply to the program. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Waterfront Mission.
Good morning. I've got a brief but exciting update for y'all. In fact, we've got here on the screen. So back at our office, we are actually in the process of closing on our property. So our grant request was for a 4-bed, 2-bath facility where we could house 8 men. We actually found a property that has 2 houses on it. One is a 3-2, the other one is a 2-1. And so we're closing today. The final price was $298,000, which is about $40,000 under our grant request. We do have some renovations that need to be done, but we'll be able to close everything under the grant request. So it truly is a blessing to y'all. And just wanted to share the other thing that was a blessing is you can see the interior house is in great condition, and the seller is actually giving it to us fully furnished. So that is a blessing to the ministry. We'll immediately be able to move 10 men into this property, and that actually does leave room for a staff member also to be in residence with them, because we know as their continuation of recovery, having that presence there is going to be a huge gift. The area, just to let y'all know, it is on Louisville Avenue, so it's right there at Michigan, just behind kind of the Publix, right next to the Sonic. So it's a great area for these men to have job opportunities. It's within just a few miles of the mission. So we are just totally excited and blessed, and just want to thank the board, thank the county for awarding this grant to Waterfront, because it is a huge benefit to us. So not only does the main house have a kitchen, but the second house does also. So it's just a huge blessing, and we just want to say thank you. We'll be submitting for reimbursements in the coming weeks for the property, though, and keep y'all up to date with some of the renovations that we have going on. So thank y'all so much. Any questions?
I have just a curiosity question. Realizing it's fluid and flexible as far as the length of stay and everything, what is the ideal length of stay before it's turned over?
Yeah, so the ideal for us, our recovery program is on a quarterly schedule. So we have 3 phases that rotates over every quarter. So ideally, once they move into these facilities during that last phase, post-graduation, we still want them to stay at least another quarter.
Okay.
We have had some men stay up to a year just as they're getting their finances in order, getting their jobs, because the last thing we want to do is move them out before they're financially ready and job ready. And that's honestly why we are expanding the number of properties that we have, is so that individuals can stay with us longer, whereas we're not saying, hey, we really don't have space.
Okay. Beyond these 2 houses, how many more beds are available?
Let me think. So we have 4 other properties beyond these 2. 4,
I'm just curious.
about 20 to 25.
Okay.
So yeah, that's not an exact number, but just kind of quickly going through them in my head. So this gives us access at one time in our transitional houses. We could have about 33 to 35 individuals.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's wonderful news about the donation, fully furnished.
Yes.
That's pretty great.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to ask, who's the person that does the property hunting? Because
Hey, I'm going to be honest. If Waterfront wasn't buying this property, I would have tried to myself. But
Man, I'm
it's a
telling you.
great deal. No, we worked with our VP of operations, and we have someone that's a donor to the mission that's also a real estate agent that we kind of tasked them on this, and they brought several to the table. But this was really
that was
above and
awesome.
beyond.
Great job.
Yeah,
Great job,
thank you so
both of
much.
you. Here it is.
Thank you. Lakeview CAT, do we have anybody here for that? And then Lakeview Center OPAS.
Good morning. Our team continues to do street outreach at least twice a week for this reporting period. They distributed 86 boxes of Narcan, 72 packs of fentanyl test strips, 9 wound care management kits, and conducted 7 rapid Hep C tests and 10 rapid HIV tests. They also participated in 2 community events. One was at Roger Scott over on Summit, the Touch a Truck event, which wound up getting rained out and they got soaked through the skin. But they wound up being able to pass out a lot of information before the weather turned nasty. And also, Fricker Center had a backpack day and health fair, and they attended that one also. They did 6 linkages during this reporting period. We have ordered and are kind of test running, distributing xylazine test strips. Since xylazine's being mixed with fentanyl a lot and just making things even worse. It's like how people come up with something to be even worse than what's already out there. But we're trying it to see how many people actually are interested in the xylazine test strips, or how many are coming across xylazine being mixed in their drugs. So we're doing the test run now. We just started it and going to see how it works in the community. Also, the ladies have made contact with one of the nightclubs. Forgive me, it used to be called Dimensions. over off of Pace, behind where the old Church's Chicken used to be, right in that area. But they've changed the name, and the nightclub owner is really interested in having fentanyl in the club to be able to, if anybody, collapses in the club, or just to be able to hand it out to anybody who wants to access it. So that's been really great. And I've been having conversations with Buck Mitchell also about being able to distribute it at Seville Quarter. Don't think he's going to quite get that past Brother Jack, but he thinks that they might be able to at least have some available for the bartenders and the waitresses, have a supply handy, so that if something happens to anyone while they're in the club, that they will know how to use it. And so with that, he would like for us to be able to do some training with their staff, showing them, how to use the Narcan and also fentanyl test strips, and be able to educate their staff some. So we're working on setting up some training sessions with them. And that's about it. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
We've already discussed the funding availability, so I don't have any new business.
We haven't talked about the new funding availability yet.
Oh.
We did the budget, though.
The budget.
We did the budget. So for the fiscal year 25-26, just to kind of wrap up the folks that just went, so those guys were the awardees of the NOFA for 24-25. We are encouraging them to try to wrap up their funding requests within 12 months. There are some of them we may need to do extensions on, which I'll bring it back to you. But so far, the 4 nonprofits that are providing services have started to submit reimbursements and have received them, so they're moving. The 2 that are working on either purchasing a property or construction, they're going to start sending those in real soon. So the money has started flowing out, which is exciting. A lot of times that's the difficult part, so that's good. The fiscal year 25-26 notice of funding deadline was last Friday. I'm happy to report that we got 10 applicants. Some of them are new. So the 10 applications that got submitted, there was one from Young Psychotherapy PLLC, which I am not familiar with, so I'm excited to see what they submitted. Bright Bridge Ministry, EMS Core, Health and Hope, Hope Above Fear, Lakeview AIM/CAP program, Ministry Village, Offensive, REAP, and YMCA, which I know is partnering with Community Health. So I think people got a little creative this round, so I'm excited to see what they submitted. So as far as those go, we just received those Friday, so we haven't looked at them. I can't tell you what anybody's actually applied for yet, but we are going to send those out to the committee today so that everybody can start reviewing and scoring. We have set up the deadline of the committee to have everything scored by Tuesday, October 7th. I think in your meeting minutes it says September 30th, but it got changed. So the committee is going to meet Tuesday, October 7th to review and discuss the scores. Again, really what we're doing is pass-failing, so making sure that everybody meets the qualifications. And then we will make an announcement to those folks of who will move forward to you all on Friday, October 10th. So Friday, October 10th, we'll have the final list of everybody that qualified. And then that very next meeting with you guys, we'll be able to bring those applications forward. We have 2 options. We can bring them forth that next Monday, which is October 13th. Or we can send you guys the applications ahead of time, and then maybe so you have a week to review them versus trying to do it all here live, and schedule the next meeting the 20th of October. That would give you guys a week to actually look at everything that's been submitted.
That's great that we have some new applicants this year. That's exciting.
Yeah.
We do have one speaker. We'll decide on the date of meeting in a few minutes. We do have one speaker with CDAC, Denise.
I just wanted to give you a brief interim medical examiner's report. on specifically fentanyl. There's more for the opioids, but, so for half of the year, according to the medical examiner's report, so we had 103 deaths due to fentanyl. Part of that was causation, and some of that is present. That's how the medical examiner. But what was significant with this new report is the age grouping that had the highest overdose deaths was 35 to 50. I know from the briefly looking at a core report, we are seeing a little bit of overdoses. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean death on the age group 10 to 19, so we have seen a spike in that as well. Hopefully, I'll be able to get you guys some latest data, but I can't come to the next meeting because I'm presenting. So any questions on that? I just wanted to give you a county picture as far as this, our region goes. The next highest age group was 50 and above.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so for the notice of funding availability and meeting again, do I have any recommendations as far as the date?
The date of October 20th, Monday, I cannot be there for that one. So.
Does it have to be in October?
Well,
Not necessarily, but we'll be ready to send them to you. October 10th, they'll be done and ready for you guys to review. So anytime after that, depending upon how much time you want to review, it's up to you guys.
Okay, all right. Well, it doesn't have to be like pressing like right next month. That's great. What's the next one, the 20th?
the 27th, does the 27th work for everybody?
27th works for me.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we'll schedule our next meeting for
Dr.
October.
Williams?
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay.
We'll schedule the next meeting for October the 27th at 10. Are there any other items? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.